Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education for the Appleton Area School District. This is a work session for the board, and we will be continuing work on some of our coherent governance results policies. My name is Kay Eggert, President of the board, and roll call of fellow board members, starting with James Bacon.
Here.
Ed Ruffalo.
Here.
Amanda Stuck.
Here.
Jim Bowman.
Here.
Deb Crewman.
Here.
And Chris Sauter. Here. Okay, then let's see. First is up is results policy 2.1.7 world languages final draft. Hello, Steve.
Hey everyone.
Joining us and
Thanks. You bet. Thanks for your time this afternoon. We have two more result policies that we will look at together, and both policies you saw previously. And so this would be a second round of looking at the world languages policy as well as our career and technical education policies. So I'm going to share my screen here so you can see the policies at the same time. Make this a little bit bigger. And this is our world languages policy that again was shared with you in a previous session. No changes have been made from when you saw this previously. So again, today would just be a second round of reviewing and seeing if there are any additional changes you would like to see made, knowing that this is one of the 6 policies that you will be voting on during the regular board session meeting later this evening. And so as I scroll further down here, and again, excuse my scrolling, but the first several pages are pretty much uniform for all the policies within the results section. Again, this is 217, which is specific to the world languages results policy, which is under the umbrella of policy 2.1. We have the same overall definitions that are applied universally to our policies, but did want to point out that one of the definitions that is specific to this policy is on world languages, which as a review, you can see here how that is defined for us as a district, focusing on interpersonal, interpretive, and presentational components of the course. We also have 2 indicators within this policy, one which is for grades 9 through 12, and the other which is for grades 7 through 12. The first one, as aligned with some of our other policies, is looking at some of the opportunity gaps that we have within our district that this policy would be looking to address and improve. And then the other one, as far as outcomes, would be the interpretive reading assessment, which for students enrolled in a world language in grades 7 through 12 would also be participating in. We would be focusing on the 3 demographic groups that are also identified within our continuous school improvement process of areas where we wish to improve outcomes. And just a reminder that some of our policies have been looking at a particular group of students, a graduating cohort from year to year. And some other policies have also included a program analysis where we're not following the same students from one year to the next, but just looking at that same grade level one year after another. So looking at how our freshman students are doing year after year, looking at how our 8th grade students are doing one year after another. And so we have a couple indicators here for you to review. The first one with the goal specific to percentage of students in grades 9 through 12 within those same 3 demographic groups that we are focusing on within our school improvement efforts with respect to our French courses. And as a reminder, in some of our policies where you are seeing X's for placeholders, that's because we are looking to ensure that we have baseline data from this year and then expanding upon that data for next year, where we would then identify what incremental increase would we be looking to see within each of these different areas. And so in particular, this would focus on our students who receive EL services, our students who receive, who are indicated as students with disabilities, and then focusing on our Black versus white student enrollment. And so this is a correction actually that I apologize I did not catch previously, but this would need to be adjusted to match that same demographic. And so I will make sure that change is applied here. Oops, I'm sorry, it was there. I didn't see that next piece. So listing all of our different demographic groups within our district, and again, establishing baseline data for which we would like to see improvements. We are also looking to see an increase in the percentage of students in our Spanish courses, again, by first looking to see where are there opportunity gaps. So again, to be clear, neither of these particular goals are looking to increase participation in world languages over another elective. It's really looking at first establishing that accurate baseline of where we've seen participation. And then from there, understanding is that overrepresentation compared to different demographic groups that would have underrepresentation. And then adjusting the policy to match where we see underrepresentation for improving that level for that particular demographic group. And so both of these list all of the different demographic groups where a baseline would be established. We would then look to see where, compared to our enrollment data, do we see underrepresentation, and then establish improvement goals based on what that information shows. So that's the opportunity gap portion of this policy. The second part then is really looking at the performance portion, which again would be a program analysis. So it would be looking at the same grade level one year to the next. And this would be, again, focusing on the interpretive reading assessment, where once we have baseline data that is obtained during the spring semester of this year for the different levels of a world language, then looking to see from there what percent of students are scoring at competent or mastery, which would be equivalent to saying a 3 or a 4 on a standards-based grading rubric, and then improving upon that outcome overall. And so that would encompass what's been in draft form currently for the World Languages Results Policy 217. And so at this time, I will turn to you for any additional questions or revisions you would like to see made.
Anything from board members?
I just
ahead,
have
Jen.
one clarification, Steve, right on that page that you're on under the 22% enrolled in French, where it says 29 students exited LEP. Does that mean 29 students exited because of limited English proficiency, or I'm not sure. The comma, I think, is getting me a little confused.
Yeah, good clarifying question there, Deb. So this would basically reflect by saying 29 students. That might be more information perhaps than what we would need to see within the column, but it is indicating that we have students who have exited out of the EL program and therefore would not be included as part of those markers. So we could certainly clean that up so that it's more clear.
Okay.
So they would be considered former EL students, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I actually think it's a good data point to have.
I agree. I
It
just
shows
wasn't exactly sure
success
what
in our
what
EL
it meant.
program
Mhm.
and that we're attracting students into French or Spanish.
Mhm. Excellent. I wasn't.
Yeah, so if you're in agreement, I think we'd leave it.
Any other questions from board members? I don't see any other questions, Steve.
Okay.
So we can move on to career and tech ed. Please.
Yeah, the other policy here, career and technical education. There was some feedback from our last time together that I will make sure to highlight here as far as changes since the last time you saw this policy in draft form. So not to be redundant here, I'll skip over the areas that are universal for the different policies. And focusing though on career and technical education as a separate entity on its own. Nothing was changed from when you saw this on December 16th, except for the bottom portion here, which I would like to highlight. One of the recommendations that you provided when you saw this about a month ago was adding to this results policy a specific goal that is targeting the opportunity gaps for students with disabilities when it comes to community-based partnerships. And so what I'd like to highlight here as well is that you had asked me to connect to our student services scorecard so that actions that are taking place within our student services department with respect to this goal would also align with the results policy as well. So I'm just going to slide over here for a moment. Our current student services services scorecard as a department, and having the same 4 pillars that we have within all of our scorecards, I'm just going to scroll down to draw your attention to a specific action step that is currently within the student services scorecard, which is in bold right here. Oops, that indicates that the department would work collaboratively with our career and technical education coordinator to increase access and address barriers for students with IEPs to enroll in career and technical education courses. And as part of that, specifically focusing on the use of our PAYS Lab experience. And so the first thing I did was, again, went to the student services scorecard to see what actions are currently in place that would supplement and support as well as strengthen this particular policy. You see that in definition here. So I will speak to it a little bit more down in the actual goal itself. But the PAYS Lab stands for Practical Assessment Exploration Systems Lab Assessment. It serves students with a variety of different disabilities. So all these students would have individualized education plans. And it's really for assessing students to see where they are at with respect to developmental skills and performance abilities related to job in the workplace, and then connecting them to a variety of different employment opportunities. Our PAYS Lab, which I believe you've seen before, I may be wrong on that, is currently housed within the City Center on the 2nd floor within the City Center building. And so you will see that we do have an additional goal that's targeted to our students with disabilities to further increase the number of opportunities that our students have through the PAYS Lab and connecting them with community-based work experiences. And so our indicators, again, would be connected to the same areas that we see listed in the previous draft. And as I scroll down here, focusing first on a program analysis for students in grades 9 through 12. Again, first establishing baseline data of seeing where are our students within the district enrolling within the family and consumer science pathway of CTE. So as a reminder, we do have several different pathways. And so we have a goal established for each of the different pathways that, similar to what I shared with you in world languages, would first be based on what does our baseline data tell us regarding our different demographic groups, and then where we've seen the greatest amount of underrepresentation so that we can focus on improving those particular opportunity gaps. You'll notice that students with disabilities is included as part of the overarching goals, and that's the same as before. But as I scroll further down in a bit here, you'll see where we also have a new targeted goal for our students with disabilities as well. We also have a similar goal overall when it comes to our students enrolled in the technology and engineering pathway. So again, just thinking about the different pathways within CTE. And also, I think I scrolled right past it. There we go. And finally, our students enrolled in the business and marketing pathway. So all 3 distinct pathways within CTE have a goal for improving participation and access for students based on first looking at our baseline data. And then from there, targeting where do we need to really look at underrepresentation set a goal for improving that, and then monitor that through this particular policy. The other piece here, again, looking at a program analysis, is also looking at our work-based learning and industry recognized credential participation. As you may recall, I previously had shared with you, just as an information basis only, that this is also data we receive through our state report card every year. It's not something we are scored on as a district, but it is information that we do receive regarding our students who do participate in work-based learning and industry recognized credentials. So same thing, looking at establishing a baseline of what level of participation we are seeing for our students as represented by different demographic groups. And then from there, establishing a goal that would replace what we currently have as a placeholder as an X to improve those different outcomes that we currently see within our data. This would also apply to our internships. So looking again at our students who are participating in those different career and tech ed internships and improving those outcomes overall. And finally, our industry recognized credentials. So similar to what you see up above, but again, targeting where we are seeing perhaps some of those opportunity gaps. Now, the new piece added here from where we were last time is what you're seeing highlighted in this green table right here. And so this would be specific to the PAYS lab that I referenced before, where we would look at first establishing what does our baseline data tell us about our students in grades 11 and 12 who do participate in the PAYS lab experience. And then from there, establishing a goal of improvement. Because in particular, what we would be looking to do is increasing the participation of students in grades 11 and 12 who also have an IEP, who are placed in the work-based learning experience, particularly within the PAYS lab, and how they are then being successfully placed in a community-based partnership. And so we don't have the baseline data yet. That's what we would be establishing this year. But then again, just like our other policies, going back and replacing that placeholder with an actual goal, and then reporting back to you what that outcome is. And then finally, the last goal here is the same as before, increasing the number of district and community-based CTE opportunities, similar to what we see within our fine arts policy, where we would first be surveying and developing a baseline understanding of how many middle school opportunities do we have, how many high school opportunities do we have, and then from there establishing a goal that would replace the current placeholder for improving the overall number of opportunities by level. And then again, kind of that multi-layer approaches as we further increase the number of opportunities that we have with respect to district and community-based partnerships within the area of CTE, then also looking at how can we improve overall outcomes for various demographic groups. So in short, all of what you're seeing here is the same as what was presented in December, except for the references to the new goal that's targeting specifically our students with disabilities as they have experiences within the PAYS lab, and then having successful placements with community-based partners. So I will turn it back to the board here for questions or suggestions you may have.
Go ahead, Deb. Hi, Steve. I have one quick question. As far as increasing the learning experience, the career and technical education opportunities, is that something you see asking students in those various schools for their thoughts on what they're looking for?
I think that certainly has to be part of it, Deb, as far as we first solicit what do we have, right? What are the number of experiences that are currently in place? Then as part of replacing that placeholder with an actual percentage, I think along with that is exactly to your point of where do we wish to see those opportunities increasing? It's not just that we increase the overall number. Certainly our goal is to make sure that we're increasing the opportunities that are also meeting the needs of our students as indicated. So that would certainly need to be a valuable piece of information as part of that next step once we have that baseline determined.
Excellent, thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else? Okay, Steve, I don't see any other questions at this end. So thank you for that. And we will take this up at the, these are on tonight's agenda.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, then we also have an item, the proposed updates to the annual work plan. This will be for discussion. Turn over to Dr. Baseman.
Right, so I also asked Clara to print out a hard copy for you. So in your black folder, it's a little bit easier, I think, to take a look at the hard copy. At least it is for me. So we have brought this back to you for revision, maybe 2 previous times. And this revision really is looking, if you turn the page to page 2 for January. We had originally scheduled working on our essential life skills, and you'll see the red font on the first column in terms of the student results policies. And so we would like to pause on that big chunk of work, which is quite extensive. And I think we were a little bit optimistic to be able to do that in addition to OE 11, which is the instructional programming. So what we would like to do is to focus our efforts, and Steve and I have worked on this together on the OE 11, get that foundation, which is the instructional programming, make sure that we're all clear on that aspect, because we did see some overlap to some of the concepts in the essential life skills. So our request is to defer then the essential life skills and all of that down to the month of March and take that on once we have instructional programming. And then also in February, we're working on the learning environment and student behavior. And so getting those 2 pieces solidly in place would allow us then to work on the essential life skills next in March. And then the mega result would be in April. And that would take us through all of our results policies and all of our OEs by the end of April. So that will be something that you'll be asked to vote on the 24th of January. So tonight I just wanted to bring it up during our work session so you had a chance to have any discussion or ask any questions about the reason for the change. And hopefully it's something that will help us continue to be very thorough as we go through and not skip any steps to try to just meet a timeline, but to take some time and really get grounded. So any questions for me?
I think this is a normal adjustment to a startup. So I would expect changes like this as we start up and find out, and as we get closer to the action we need to take, and find out exactly what's required, and try to integrate it into the rest of the life. So that's fine with me.
Other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you.
I'm just glad you recognize, or I mean, you know, it's important that you noticed ahead of time that the instructional programming would fall better once you have the other pieces in place, because we hate to waste, you know, people's time and then having to backtrack. So I'm glad that you realize that and put it into play.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so then if there aren't any other questions on that, I will adjourn this work session. And we will then move into our meeting. So it'll be a separate link, is that correct? Okay, so, all right, we'll be back shortly.